Right, okay, Aubrey and Claudie. We'll carry on. The deep, heavy breathing of the brothers told of a great effort that they'd made to escape from the wicked servants of Laban. But they were safe now, hidden away in a great black cave amongst the rocks. I bet it was dark in that cave. The moon had just set and dawn was beginning to break, changing the blackness of the cave to a deep grey. That was a narrow escape, whispered Layman. We're safe now. They won't follow us here amongst these rocks and in these caves. Oh, they won't bother us now. They've got what they want, all our gold and silver and precious things. That was a fine trap we fell into, said Lemuel, following Layman's lead as he always did. And whose fault was that? Snapped Layman. Oh, it's Nephi's fault. That's nice, little brother of ours. That's Nephi's fault. The two elder brothers talked on and on about this. They remembered how Nephi persuaded them against their bitter judgment to go into Jerusalem and gather together all the riches. They remembered that their father was responsible for their journey, and they called him a dreamer of bad dreams. Sam had been silent at first, but at last he came to the defence of his father and Nephi. This so angered them that they fell on Sam and Nephi and struck them with a rod. Oh, dear me, struck them with a rod. Suddenly an angel stood before them. Oh, an angel's come. Why do you strike your brother? Don't you know that God has commanded him to be your ruler because of your wickedness? Go back to Jerusalem, and the Lord will deliver Laban into your hands. Oh, an angel's helping them. God, angels help people. When the angel had ceased speaking, he disappeared, and as soon as he was gone, Laman and Lemuel began to complain again, saying that if they went back to Jerusalem, Laban would kill them. At last, when Nephi spoke, his handsome face showed courage and his eyes glowed with faith. Let us go up again to Jerusalem. Let us be faithful in keeping the commandments of the Lord, for he is mightier than all the earth. Then thou not mightier than Laban and his 50, yea, or even than his tens of thousands. Let us go up, let us be strong, like Moses, for he spoke to the waters of the Red Sea, and they divided. For a long time after Nephi had spoken, Laman and Lemuel sat silent and brooding, their hearts filled with anger. After a while they began to complain again. Oh, they're always complaining, and if they did, they would surely be killed, they said. I will go up to Jerusalem alone. All I ask of you is to wait for me here in this cave, said Nephi. Laman turned and looked at Nephi, and for a moment his eyes were filled with admiration, but then he turned and looked away without saying anything. I will go with you, said Sam. Nephi was deeply touched by Sam's devotion and loyalty. What a wonderful brother he was, so true and reassuring. There's no need for the two of us to go alone. Lemuel and I will go too, said Laman. Lemuel nodded his consent. What a strange combination of good and evil Laman was. Only a few minutes ago he had been boiling and hatred and resenting everything. By night the four brothers crept up to Jerusalem. When they reached the city, they stopped in the shadow of the great wall, and Nephi said, You hide here in the shadows while I go to Laban's house. But you will be killed if you go alone, said Sam. No, I will not be killed, said Nephi with conviction, for the Lord has promised to deliver Laban into our hands, and he will keep that promise. Because remember that an angel told them, and an angel is helping them. Nephi stepped out of the shadows into the bright moonlight and crept into the city. There was a strange, wonderful feeling about him. His feet moved as if by magic, taking him into a strange street without any effort. He knew that he was being guided by the Spirit. At that moment, he said, he saw Laban's sword and drew it out of his sheath. He stood looking at it for a long time. The hilt was of pure gold and workmanship. The blade was of most precious steel. Suddenly, the metal felt ice cold in his hand, and he heard the voice of the Spirit saying, "You must kill Laban with this sword." Laban was drunk and he was lying on the ground. So he's going to kill him, I think, with the sword. He said in his heart, "I have never killed anyone in all my life, and I would rather not do it now." Then the voice of the Spirit spoke and saying, "The Lord has delivered Laban into your hands." Nephi remembered that Laban tried to kill him and that he stole all the silver and gold and precious things. Again the voice of the Lord said, "The Lord has delivered Laban into your hands. It is better that one man should perish than the whole nation dwindle and perish in unbelief." When he heard these words, Nephi remembered what the Lord had said to him in the wilderness, and if he would keep his commandments, he would prosper in the promised land. He knew that he could not keep the Lord's commandments according to the law of Moses unless they had the brass plates, for these records were engraved on the plates. He knew also that the Lord had delivered Laban into his hands so that he could obtain the plates according to the commandments of the Lord. When Nephi had thought all these things and had weighed up carefully, he decided that he must obey the Spirit. He took the sword and overcame Laban, and when he was overcome, he dressed in Laban's clothes, even to his sword.